Welcome to our case study on Havaianas. Havaianas is an example of the cultural resource route because their primary value proposition is not just the shoe, but it's the cultural ideas that come along with the shoe. You can see this in their advertising where they use lots of color and design and style, and they make it festive like a Brazilian beach or like a Brazilian party. But the shoes didn't start out that way. The shoes started in 1962. They were a product of Alpargatas S.A., which originally started in Argentina and still exist. The two companies split, and in the 1960s, the company needed a common shoe for the common person, and they developed the Havaianas. The Havaianas, as you see here, came in limited styles: blue, black, yellow, red, and were sold to very common people. They were designed upon the zori. The zori is a Japanese shoe. It's a Japanese sandal usually made of mat or grass or reeds, and it became popular in Brazil because there was a huge diaspora of Japanese people around the world in the 1800s. Many of those landed in Brazil, so much so that Brazil is the second largest Japanese country in terms of ethnicity. The texture on the shoes represent grains of sand, and they only had 4 colors at first, and by the time I got them when I was a kid, there were 5 colors, so I was able to get green. The sandal was supposed to appeal to the very bottom of the consumer market. Now, how did they start going around the world? There were certain cultural factors in the 1960s that helped shoes and different products from Brazil become popular. One of them was Brazilian beaches. Certainly there was beach culture in the United States and Europe, but Brazilian beach culture, including football, life, parties, became extremely popular. Also, Brazil's most famous invention is probably the bikini. And while the bikini was invented in the 1950s, in the 1960s it became popular, particularly through this actress, Brigitte Bardot. She was a French actress, and she started to appear in movies, and those movies became popular around the world and popularized the bikini. And finally, bossa nova in the 1960s. Artists like Tom Jobim, Sergio Mendes, Deodato all became extremely popular around the world and took Brazilian musical culture around the world. With that, the products started to expand around the world as well. Havaianas are affordable. In Brazil, they were actually controlled, the prices were controlled by the government, so they became really popular for low-income people. But they had problems going outside the country because they were seen as very, very cheap shoes, much as in the way that some Chinese products today are seen as very cheap. They were the cheapest shoes. When I was a child, my parents bought them for me because they were the cheapest possible shoes you could buy. So they didn't carry a large premium on price. So in the 1990s, they had several reinventions. They reinvented the brand, the product, the style, and the entire image, and they built this along the lines of cultural resources. So first, they started to focus on the advertising, which focuses on traditional Brazilian products, started in 1962, where there had been lots of Brazilians, 3 generations of Brazilians who have been using these products. Okay. Now, they also had to attack a different market segment. There are certain sandals that are very sporty, like Reef. Birkenstocks are shoes mostly for older people and focus primarily on comfort. Impanimas are a high fashion sandal, much more expensive. So Havaianas is trying to hit right in the middle of those particular products. Now, they changed their publicity, focusing on certain social segments. Depends on the country. In some countries, they want the common person. In some countries, they want the upscale or luxury market. The brand is looking to urbanize with lots of feminine releases, as we're going to see here, and also they focus on younger audiences. Let's look at a commercial that deals with these particular themes.